Okay. Excuse me. I think I'm live. So, I was talking to a friend the other day. Uh, sorry, friend or relative. I can't remember. My mind's basically fucked these days. My memory's shorter than my dick, and my dick ain't that fucking big. Uh, Something came up with the Second Amendment, and I said, this guy's a total fucking poser. And they kind of were taken back by that. And I said he wasn't actually there for us when we were fighting for the Second Amendment. And he was one of the biggest opponents that concealment offers some sort of tactical advantage and all this other shit. Well, what it really was he was scared to put his face out there and stand up to the biggest enemies, which is the law enforcement, because you don't want to go to jail and you don't want to get in trouble with the cops. But you want to put this persona on YouTube that you're pro Second Amendment and that you're in the fight when you're basically a mouthpiece for selling merchandise with your name on it. Not affiliated. Somebody gave me this shirt. I never worked for them. They have nothing to do with what I say. So let's go through this step by step. Greg Abbott, the governor of Texas, did not sign open carry into law out of the kindness of his heart. He didn't take this mantra up and decide to do this by himself or spearhead the bill in any way. The Republican Party, law enforcement, NRA, all these other organizations, they were actually against it all out, right? We didn't get open carry passed the first time we did it. We did this shit for many sessions. I think the Texas state legislation meets every other year, a year on, a year off, if I'm not mistaken. So it took years to get open carry passed. But open carry didn't pass because these people on YouTube fighting for it. No, it was idiots out walking around with AR-15s and shit on our shoulders and bringing attention to a problem that nobody really fucking wanted us to bring attention to. But that's not even it. I happened to be at the Texas State Capitol with another organization that had nothing to do with Second Amendment rights, right? And while doing so, I noticed a guy, I'm 6'2" without shoes. And this tall guy, taller than I am, but much thinner frame build, had the guy up against the wall in the hallway, because most of you that have never been to the Capitol, there's an underground layer with a bunch of rooms. Not everybody has a big fancy room up top. And most of the representatives and state representatives and legislators have these little fucking offices down in the basement. And this tall guy is doing the whole chest poke to this little fucker, probably 5'2", 5'4", and got him up against the wall and just poking him in the chest. You will vote no for this bill, da 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 da. And I don't know who any of these people are, right? So I hit the two guys next to me, like, hey, we need to deal with this. So we walk over, and I get between, I put my hand on the tall guy and pushed his ass. In the hallway there, you can almost reach out and touch with both hands from what I remember. And I put my hand on the tall guy's chest, and I pushed him up against the other wall. And I said, I don't know what this is about, but you need to leave. The little guy asked you to leave, you need to fucking leave. So you're leaving now. And sure enough, the guy, mouthed off some shit and left. And I turn around to the little guy. And it's like, are you okay? He says, yeah. And we got to talking. I'm like, what the fuck was all that about? And he's like, oh, that guy's with the NRA. And the woman's with him. And I was like, you can leave now. Pissed off, and just motioned for her to move along. So they go walking down the hallway. So me and I want to say 4 or 5 guys now, because it drew some attention from some other guys. We're standing there, and this state representative, I said, "What was all that about?" And he's like, "Oh, he was with the NRA. He wants me to vote against the open carry bill." And I was like, "Oh, okay. Are you Republican or Democrat?" And he said, "Republican." I said, "So you're voting against it?" And he's like, "Oh yeah." He says, "I had a meeting with 4 other state reps today, and the 5 of us are all voting against it." And I was like, just out of curiosity, are the other 4 Republican or Democrats? And he said they're Republicans. And we got to talking, and I said, "Well, I actually support open carry. I fought for it, da 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 da." I think I had been to jail at that point. And I was like, "Well, I'm glad I could help you. It's like, do you need me to contact the law enforcement down in the lobby and tell them to come up here or anything?" He's like, "No." He's like, "I didn't want to call down there and waste their time. I just wanted him to leave." And we go to turn around, and the guy says, "By the way, do you have a gun on you right now?" And I said, "Yes, sir, I have a gun on me right now." And he says, "Can I see your concealed handgun license?" And I said, "Sure." So I pulled it out, showed it to him. And he says, "Where's your gun?" I said, "Appendix carry," and I hit it. And he's like, "You're serious? You came over here and stood up for me. Why?" And I was like, "I just don't like seeing little guys being picked on. And standing there not doing anything was galling the hell out of me. So I told the guys I was going to come over here and do something about it." And he says, "Nobody else stopped. Nobody else, did anything, but you did." And I said, "Yeah." I said, "I noticed some shit was going on. Didn't know what was going on. But the moment he put his finger on you, he touched you. And you told him to leave, and he didn't. So I interfered." And he's like, "You know what?" He says, "I changed my mind." He says, "I'm going to call the other 4 representatives in my office right now." He says, "I want you to notice something." This is coming from a state representative. And he says, "In the middle of my office with all my staff there, the NRA offered to donate $30,000 to my campaign fund, and offered for the blonde bitch that was with the NRA guy to give me a blowjob in my office." We're dying laughing. And he says, "I'm a married man with 3 kids, or 2 or 3 kids." And I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah." He said, $30,000 for my campaign fund and a blowjob from the girl that was with the guy. And we're just dying laughing. And he says, "I'm gonna get with my guys, and we're gonna seriously have a debate over this." But he says, "I can change their minds." He's like, "After what just happened there, and yet here it is, you standing here with a gun. You came over here and helped me." He says, "You have 5 additional votes for open carry." He says, "They're fighting us all the way." He says, Dan Patrick's one of the biggest proponents against it. And he's like, Greg Abbott's like finger in the wind kind of thing, seeing what's going to happen. He says, "But I think with the 5 votes that we have enough to pass open carry." And I said, "Thank you," and I shook his hand and walked off. That was it. And the vote came up, and sure as shit, the guy that I was with was watching the votes, and the guy's name that was the state rep and the 4 others that we found out through the grapevine who the 4 others were in this little pack, they all voted for open carry. Of course, Greg Abbott went to his little gun shop friend buddy and signed the bill and wouldn't allow any of us gun activists in the room. If we were in the room, most of us had to be unarmed in a gun shop or behind the actually unarmed. We couldn't go in there with long guns or pistols on, and we had to be behind the cameras. Some people stayed afterwards and had their pictures taken, but they wanted the fucking credit for it when the real activists were out front on the street waiting for the bill to be signed. So that's open carry, right? So then years later, constitutional carry gets passed. But in between, I think in between uh, open carry and constitutional carry, OCT, Open Carry Texas, they really fucked up bad by supporting sexual predators. And their numbers dropped off. They had a meeting, I can't remember if it was San Antonio or Austin. It might have been a hotel in Austin. And that's the first time Rachel Malone with what's that one group? Rachel Malone with damn, Open Carry Texas, and then it's a big gun rights group, the NRA, and then she wasn't with the NRA, she was with the, I'll think of it here in a second, GOA, Gun Owners of America. And she basically said, you know, we're going to take over OCT. We're going to get all the old people from OCT back in. I'm going to take over everything and da da da. And I was like, lady, I don't think you understand what you're stepping into. OCT is no more. We're just here to see what stupidity is going on. Most people here don't even support OCT anymore. And it said, okay. Rachel Malone invited me back to her hotel room in front of another lady that was with me for a alone meeting of a sexual nature to help change my mind because other people were listening to what I was saying. And I just looked at the lady that I was with. I'm like, she just offered to go back to her hotel room with me alone to change my mind. You know, how fucked up is that shit? Some time goes by, and the organization that I won't talk of, I have never mentioned on my channel, was having a meeting at a church. And sure enough, I can't remember if Doc Green was there, but CJ Grisham was on the monitor, but David Ahmad was actually in the crowd. And CJ said something about how from now on, after GOA was involved with Rachel Malone, now when we go to the Capitol, we're not going to open carry because we don't want to offend anybody and we don't want to piss off the legislators. So the whole purpose in fighting for gun rights, and now that we have open carry, when we go to the Capitol, out of respect for not offending anybody, especially the state legislators, we're going to cover up our guns. We'll go concealed at the Capitol. Well, that whole shit ends, and I looked at the guy I was with. I'm like, that shit just fucking happened? Did they just say that? We're going to cover up our guns to not offend anybody, especially the state legislators. And at dinner, the two guys I was with, I asked David Ahmad, I'm like, did CJ just honestly say that we're not going to open carry anymore at the Capitol? And he's like, oh yeah. He's like, that's how we're moving forward with gun rights. I was like, by taking a step back and not offending anybody and doing exactly the opposite of what we fought for. Well, fast forward, GOA, Rachel Malone has a thing out front when constitutional carry was passed, and she's standing there with the doctor next to her with a loaded revolver in her hand, flagging everybody. Blissfully unaware of this, I was actually up at the Capitol using the bathroom. I came back down. I had my AR-15 in my boot holster. And this guy walks up to me with I don't even know what's going on at the front yet because my bladder's the size of a fucking walnut. And I go out to the front, and I'm going around the crowd. You can see me walking down from the Capitol and going around the crowd. And a guy stops me with an AR-15. And he's like, your holster's not a legal holster. You can't be in our meeting, da da da. And I'm like, dude, there's cops here. If my holster was illegal, they would do something about it. You know, fuck off. And he steps forward and he gets his rifle ready. And I said, step out of my way or I'll beat you to death with that fucking rifle in front of all these cops. And the friend that you can clearly see on the back row, he's sitting there not paying attention to the thing. He's watching me. The guy left. Well, the guy I called by a nickname, I won't say it. He says, do you know who that guy is? I said, no. He said, that's Rachel Malone's fiance. And I was like, oh, that's why he wanted to pick a fight and thought he was a big man with a fucking rifle. Scrawny little shit. Wearing slick cowboy boots. Anyhow, beside the point. So, after that meeting, I called GOA. I'm like, you know, there's an issue here with Rachel Malone, and this, you know, in the video, it clearly, her security team is clearly breaking the law, and surpassing what the law actually says, and some of her people don't think that they're subject to the law; they're actually above it. I was like, there's a big issue here, and I talked to a person at GOA. Okay, we'll look into it. I actually got a call back from somebody, and we talked about that. But then later on, we went back to the Capitol fighting for constitutional carry and fighting for something else. And GOA was there, and Rachel Malone and her fucking crew of shitheads. They had huge boxes of t-shirts. They wanted everybody to look the same because Moms Demand Action has all matching shirts, so therefore all the Second Amendment people had to have all matching shirts so that we drowned out the crowd, right? Clearly define which side, whoever you're on. Excuse me. But the caveat to getting a t-shirt is you had to cover up your gun. You had to go concealed. And there was a tall guy there. He worked as a medic in the oil field industry, flying on choppers and staying out offshore, full-time medic for an oil company. And he always thought I was a fucking lunatic and a liar and I made all this shit up. And I looked at him, I'm like, this is what we fought for. This is what I've been trying to say on my old channels, 6-7 channels back on YouTube. And he's like, I can't fucking believe it. So I then, of course, I can't go in because I just had a issue with the Master at Arms because I'm wearing fuck the police shirt and they won't let me in to testify, and that became a huge issue later on that day. Well, I go over and there's a heavy-set woman, you know, doing paperwork for GOA, and I'm chatting her up and, hey baby, how you doing, you know, and all this other stuff, and a couple of guys I knew were there. I'm trying to sweet talk her so that they just give me a shirt so I can go home and explain everything that they're doing and take the shirt off and fucking burn it in front of everybody to show GOA how fucking pissed off I am. Well, I immediately called GOA back because I had the guy's number in my phone. I'm like, are you aware of what Rachel Malone's doing right now at the Capitol? No, what is she doing? Well, we're trying to compete with Moms Demand Action now against a bill that for constitutional carry, and we have to all wear matching shirts, but GOA and Open Carry Texas have decided that we have to conceal our handguns and not offend anybody. Who the fuck told you that? Well, call CJ, here's his number. Call Rachel Malone, here's her number. And here's this guy's number as a witness, and here's the guy I was with, and here's his number. And constitutional carry had absolutely zero chance of passing whatsoever, right? But of course, Dan Patrick, being the colossal fucking idiot alcoholic that he is, got on there and said some shit about back in law enforcement and that we don't have First Amendment rights and we can't wear offensive t-shirts whenever we go into the Capitol because he knew what the Master of Arms had done, which I had video of. that's been deleted. Somebody's, I'm sure, has it out there. I have witnesses that were there that know the situation I'm talking about. But instantly, people I never fucking knew, never had my phone number, were calling me. You know, what's this about? Why'd you do this? What's going on? Da 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 da. Constitutional carry. When I told people this, I said, "Dude, it's dead. You know, we're fighting for a lost cause. No chance whatsoever." Well, Dan Patrick kept running his fucking mouth, and people started asking questions. Very high-ranking people with influence, started calling me, asking what the fuck's going on, and I started telling them the truth. And guess what? Constitutional carry passed. So then, moving forward, Rachel Malone disappears off the radar. CJ backs another pedophile. All these other people that are posers, that are YouTube experts, that never risked anything, never showed their face at a protest, never talked to the state legislator, were never there when the bill was signed or being talked about in front of committees, never showed up to the Texas Capitol and fought for anything or testified against or for any bills. They're all telling you all this shit, which is utter fucking lies. The truth is, your biggest enemies are supposed to be the people you're considering your allies. It's not Moms Demand Action or the progressives or the Democrats. It's the gun rights organizations, because instantly in the state of Texas, we were a state before, a country before we joined the Union. All the Jim Crow laws and all the anti-gun laws and all that shit went out the door too fast. They lost control. And that's what it's about. It was about control. It wasn't about the money for the licenses or anything like this. They were losing control too fast and having to give up too much ground too fast. Why? Because people hit the streets and people were talking and actually doing shit, and not just running their fucking mouths on YouTube, and actually showing people the truth on video of what was actually fucking happening, and showing our state legislators that were shit-faced drunk on fucking Twitter, running their fucking mouths and saying shit that wasn't true, when I could prove who I was, the shirt I fucking owned, that I was there, that I had video proof of the Master at Arms doing this shit, GOA, OCT, and all this other shit, and the pedophilia that went along with it. How those two interacted were fucking amazing, and it was because of one man. And it turns out now there's two. But the truth of the matter, to wrap this up, I don't belong to any organizations anymore. I will go to the groups, I'll wear the t-shirts, I'll support shit. I won't be a fucking member of a GD thing. I will walk away. I had people that I didn't know delivering boxes of OCT gear, the belt buckles, the hats, the shirts, the patches. I threw all that shit away. I've only kept a couple of shirts. I even have 2 shirts from OCT that CJ Grisham gave me that I've never even fucking worn. In the little patch that if you showed up on one day, you got a patch. And it just galled the fuck out of him that he had to give it to me in front of everybody. Because I had outed him about how much he lied about the pedophilia. But the truth of the matter is, the people that you thought were your greatest allies, the Republicans, the gun rights organizations, the big spokesmen of the groups, or the big YouTubers, they were never your ally. They were actually your biggest enemy. Period. They were never there. They never saw the shit that happened. They never saw the counter protests and how the money was distributed and how the organizations were set up. They'll never speak about that. What they'll do is they'll tell you you're wrong for fighting for this, or wrong for wanting to get this tax done, or wrong for not going this way or not doing that. And it's the butters. You have to have concealment for tactical advantage. We don't need 30 round mags. We don't need to be fighting for this. We need to conserve what we have. No. You don't gain ground by conserving what you have. You gain ground for fighting for what was lost before you were fucking born. You gain ground by telling the truth. You gain ground by showing people what actually happened. You gain ground by fighting against the system. You gain ground by showing that the system is the actual enemy. And when you listen to these fucking YouTubers running their mouth that were never fucking there, that have nothing to do with behind the scenes, that have never actually talked to anybody that had to actually make a play, that never risked anything, know that they are your fucking enemy. They are a bigger threat to you and your rights than the anti-gun progressive groups. Peace out, love you, go fuck yourselves. Go with God.